This episode is part of the Transformational Podcast, Systems in Motion. If you want to learn more about the leverage points, please listen to the opening episode. Lean back and imagine together with Valentin an education system that brings up enlightenment and addresses inner transformation.
To see the ending at the beginning, that great
Inner change for systems innovation. Meditation in the education systems. Imagine a school system that teaches children to self-reflect, identify mental patterns, and transcend paradigms in the same way they teach to write and read. Imagine an entire generation capable of stepping back from the mental and behavioral patterns which have brought some of the complex challenges we're facing today. This podcast is about the potential influence of meditation in schools as a leverage point to transform our systems.
and I'd avoid the void that lies on the other side, and right beneath your feet,
Our world is beginning to understand that the complex sustainability challenges of our century cannot be resolved at merely the material or technological planes. Researchers of sustainability transitions acknowledge the need for addressing inner dimensions, and futurists point that our current external focus blinds us to the shaping power of interior factors. So we have an emerging field of inner dimensions and transformation, which shares significant overlaps with the central concept of this podcast series, the leverage points developed by Donella Meadows. And how is this so? As mentioned in the introduction of this podcast series, leverage points are understood as places to intervene in a system with potentially increasing levels of impact towards systems change. Well, changing the mental models or mindsets is Meadows' second leverage point and has one of the higher potentials for transformation. This inner change is also closely related to capacities within us, such as self-reflection and awareness. Your capacity to self-reflect and remain aware influences the way you see the world. So maybe we're starting to thread this together at this point. When we develop these capacities, we support conscious choices and a behavior that minimizes automatic reactions or routines. But it's easier said than done. Indeed, using high leverage intervention points is not necessarily easy. In fact, as Donella Meadows says, the higher the leverage point, the more the system will resist changing it. And this is where it gets better, because the good news is that for someone to experience a paradigm shift,
follow you, although you know.
only a split of a second is needed. It's still unclear how to systematically propitiate it. But then again, would it be a paradigm shift if we could change it with a simple step-by-step approach? So this is why in this podcast we will focus on one approach to enhance our capacity to self-reflect. We propose that by training self-reflection through meditation in school systems, we prepare the ground for inner change, which can be followed by the systems change. Maybe this is a way to beat the system's resistance to change that Meadows referred to. This is about raising a society able to step back and look at our complex system challenges in the same way that meditation trains us to look at our thoughts and emotions. But let's just hold the horses for a second and provide a common language. What's really meditation? Maybe you have practiced it or heard of it, or maybe you haven't. There's many definitions, but in this context, we refer to a set of techniques that intend to encourage a heightened state of awareness and focused attention. There are also many general benefits of meditation and backed by science. To name a few, we have better focus and concentration, improved self-awareness and self-esteem, lower levels of stress and anxiety, and my personal favorite, fostering kindness. Okay, but coming back to teaching this to children, are schools really the right place to teach meditation? From the standpoint of view of maximizing reach, the answer is clearly yes. Schools have contact with large number of children on a regular basis and across their formative developmental years. It's where lifelong habits may be established. Some authors even think meditation fits right in the purpose that schools have. After all, schools are meant to provide us with skills to live autonomously and successfully. Through this logic, learning and experiencing how our mind operates should be at least side to side with math and geography. And to bring some contrast, let's hear one of our fellow master students, Anton Parisi, who has some first-hand experience teaching meditation in a forest setting.
I've worked with youth for a number of years in Northern California, and a couple years back we started this new practice that we called teen retreats, where we would take a couple dozen teenagers from our programs into the forest in southern Oregon with the purposes of giving them a new experience in the wilderness and the opportunities for quiet time and self-reflection. And so I had the chance to lead a couple short 5 to 10 minute meditations with about 25 teens. And our response was overwhelmingly positive. In my opinion, for myself and observing the effect of meditation on teens, I think that it is almost always a positive intervention. It gives us the chance to step back, quiet our minds, and become more observant. And because of that, it helps us see and better understand our own thought processes and analyze, or at least notice in new ways, our daily routines and our actions.
Sounds encouraging, doesn't it? When we look into evidence to support these interventions, we see that meditation education programs are on the rise, and yet some authors point that their design and implementation have not been adequately supported by research. There's still relevant aspects lingering, such as how long and often should the meditation periods be, how should we train the facilitators, or whether approaches such as replacing detention with meditation are the right way to go. Referring to the limited empirical evidence, according to Michael John, only 60% of the youth mindfulness programs were evaluated and published in peer-reviewed journals, and most of these were merely one-time pilot programs. There's a paper review by Leah Waters that went over evidence from 15 peer-reviewed studies of school meditation programs. This review looked at 3 student outcomes: well-being, social competence, and academic achievement. The paper concludes that school-based meditation should be beneficial in majority of cases. And 33% of the results showed medium to large effects of meditation in the mentioned outcomes.
To see the ending at the beginning, that gray.
So wrapping this up, we hope to leave a spark of curiosity in you. Mastering high leverage points could be seen as an art. Meadows put it nicely, saying that you either work hard at it or you throw yourself into the humility of not knowing. As she also said, in the end, it seems that mastery has less to do with pushing leverage points than it does with strategically, profoundly, madly letting go.
Allow it to swallow you, although you know.
So the invitation is to continue research and implementation of meditation in school systems in order to propitiate the enlightenment potential of the following generations.
The ending at the beginning, that great encircling snake, and I'd avoid the void that lies on the other side, and right beneath your feet.
This episode was produced in cooperation with Meeet Studios.